Going for the anarchy look today, I guess. I know, I just felt like having a hood on today. I'm in this weird, I got a lot going on today sort of thing. And unfortunately, one of those things was supposed to be editing, and I think it's going to get thrown by the wayside till tomorrow. But them's the breaks. Okay. Welcome to Into the Mind of Heroclix Madness, where we do a little bit, spend a little time, chit-chat about nothing, and then talk Heroclix. And for the past couple episodes, we've been covering, and for the next couple episodes even, we've been covering the pauper format for the upcoming ROC State Championship events. That's kind of been the goal. On a personal note, weight's down, which is good. Workouts are continuing to go well. Yesterday, I did this thing where I increased all my reps on my weightlifting and exercise, and this morning my body was having none of it. It took it a little easier today, but still did about an hour of cardio, did a little bit of weightlifting. That was all nice. So today, wanted to start the conversation. I have been talking about the archetypes to expect to see. Or in some cases, some of you as players are going to be using them. But what I feel like I've been failing at is talking about what we could do or what kind of tools we have for the matter. And today, I want to start talking about one set of tools. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about another set of, next week, we're going to talk about another set of tools. And this week, I'm going to do my best, if I talk about a character, to actually talk about the attack and damage. I went back to check what I talked about last week and realized I'd referred to Magneto as a 4 attack, 12 damage character, which is interesting, but is also incorrect. So, I apologize if anybody doesn't have a dial in front of them or HC Realms in front of them and is new to the game, and I really messed with your brain on that one. So my deepest apologies to anybody who caught my nonsense. I did it like 6 or 7 times in a row. It was actually pretty stupid on my part. So I'm going to own up to that one. But in the meantime, I have, like I said, I've spoken about quite a few of the things that we have available to ourselves, but not, a couple of the team archetypes, and it's time to start talking about available tools and talk about what is good and is not. Because, when I introduced the topic of pauper as a format that the States is going to be running, I kind of glossed over everything. I didn't really go in depth on a lot of our toolboxes. So I'm going to take a slot in things you would consider on your team and start talking about their viability, their usefulness, and I'm not going to outright say they're not necessarily usable, but I am going to say, I'm going to stress that, certain situations, some of these characters are not going to be on all teams, if that makes any sort of difference. So I've got to kind of use a lot of the same criteria I use for talking about figures when I'm doing my figure reviews and the unboxing videos. We'll talk about, is it overall good or is it just kind of good? Because to a degree, almost everything in Heroclix is kind of good if it has a place. I'll base it, my basis will be based on the character on its own. There might be a team that all of a sudden this element adds to this element, which is this element, and then all of a sudden this is a god tier figure. I'm not really going to talk about that. But what we are going to spend a little bit of time on today, specifically because the pauper format has a fair amount of it, we're going to talk about that Colossal Retaliation slot and how we can use that. So let's pull up HC Realms, and let's start right off the bat with the first one, going all the way back to Avengers Infinity, because Spider-Man is no longer illegal. Elseworlds is the earliest set. Mighty Thor, we'll just go through quickly. Elseworlds only had the Skyscraper Wonder Woman, which is a purchase over the counter thing, and is not in the format. Though that could be its own conversation. Could be argued as kind of similar to WWE. I'm not the guy making the decision. I also don't spend a lot of time, unfortunately, discussing it with him, and I probably should just kind of bring these things up, but it's neither here nor there. Mighty Thor, none of them. They're all super booster figures. Definitely not going to fall under the pauper format. Undead brought no Colossal Retaliators. Same with Mighty Thor, or same with Thor Ragnarok. Same with Harley Quinn and the Gotham Girls, along with the Fast Forces. Star Trek the original series, nothing. Fast Forces for the X-Men and Xavier School, and X-Men, the big Xavier School, the set, nothing. So we jump now to Avengers Infinity. So, of course, we have the Giant Girl. This is the one click that she starts with, but Giant Girl is a wacky one. So we have 10 attack, 10 attack, 10 movement with charge, 17 defense with combat reflexes, which is really cool on a character you really want to be getting into base contact in a lot of cases. You say grow, I say how high is her first trait. During force construction, choose a point value. And then it's, okay, so that's just describing what's on the card. Because at 10 points, you get like one click from the back, basically. And it actually tells you which click number you start on. She keeps getting bigger as the next trait. This is kind of a cool one. Giant Girl may heal past her chosen starting line, but can't heal except by this trait. When she KOs an opposing character after resolutions, roll a d6 and heal her a number of clicks equal to half the result. So if Giant Girl gets the last shot on a character, she and kills them, she's going to heal between 1 and 3 clicks. I think that's pretty cool. And that's quite dangerous when you start to see that you bleed into other point values. So 10 goes to 20, which all of a sudden becomes a 2-click character with a higher attack with sidestep and quake. Quake with Colossal Reach is always awesome. But of course you lose the combat reflexes. But if you happen to get 2 clicks out of it, you've got Close Combat Expert. So possibly 12 attack, 2 damage, or 11 attack, 3 damage, or 10 attack, 4 damage with sidestep. Or if you get all 3 of them, you get to a pretty crappy dial, actually, to be brutally honest. You don't want this, or you want to slide by this after killing maybe a second character, if you're lucky enough, and you start to see how things could snowball out of control, right? If you see this dial, or your opponent has gotten this far on the Giant Girl, I want to know what you're doing, because there's a 10-point character that currently has 12 clicks of health that you've got to. I don't. Why have you not dealt with this yet? And why has it killed so much of your stuff? Bystanders, gotcha. Cool. All right. Anyway, that takes us further down. I believe that's actually about it for the direct Colossal Retaliators, with the exception, of course, of Jakar. Jakar's a couple things to note about Giant Girl and why she's probably the best thing to ever happen to Colossal Retaliation, especially out of the set. Her Colossal Retaliation is a power action, shame, but she lacks a lot of things that Colossals won't have. On the downside, she doesn't have a stop click, which means her defense is easily dealt with. But she doesn't have the usual sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Colossal Indifference, which means she doesn't care if you're small. She can charge, right? So if charge is probably the better option, or they didn't make an attack, Giant Girl can still help lead the attack. So be aware of that with Giant Girl for sure. And then, of course, the last one from the set in the uncommon slot is Jakar, like we said. Jakar, his is an immobilized. Now, here's the cool thing, is his defense is 19 defense with toughness, which is huge. It's a massive defense. And he's also got shape change. He's a 25-point retaliator. But his retaliation is immobilize, where you place him such that he can make a close attack targeting a chosen character and all opposing characters within 2 squares of him. Not of the target. And instead of normal damage, hit characters each given 2 action tokens that don't deal pushing damage and may be placed in a square adjacent to their current square. So what you could really do is you could take a formation. One guy attacked you. You go and attack everybody next to him and just spread it out and take a turn away from them. A lot of potential. He comes with the cosmic keyword, and there are some limited degrees of cosmic theme teams that you can build. And I think as a toolbox character, this is a good guy to kind of have on your belt. Now, there's 2 main set versions, but of course, can't talk about the main set without talking about the Fast Forces, because they are legal, and there is one Fast Force Colossal Retaliator, and that is Giant Girl. Now, Giant Girl is cool for a number of reasons, one of which, once per turn, when a friendly character with the Avengers keyword hits an opposing character after resolutions, you may move Giant Girl up to 2 squares. I don't have a problem with that. Colossal Indifference, she does have, unlike her in-set counterpart. She is also 10 points, by the way. But retaliation is free. Choose an opposing character to attack Giant Girl or damage a friendly character since your last turn. Place Giant Girl such she can make a close attack targeting the chosen character and then do so. She may activate this in addition to any other Colossal Retaliation used this turn. So usually Colossal Retaliation you can only trigger if another Colossal Retaliation hasn't been used, or when we look at the X-Men guys, a character hasn't been placed. And this kind of gets around that, which is bonkers in the world of Colossal Retaliation. Now granted, she's only got a 10 attack, 2 damage. But in the pauper format, there's a lot of things that she can damage, so I wouldn't kick her out of the house for eating cookies. In addition to which, she's an Avenger. Now, one of the things that's great about Colossal Retaliators as well is they're colossal, which means they can carry characters who are smaller than them, which includes giants, regular-sized characters, and tiny characters. Not necessarily multiples, but they can carry one. So they can add to your carrying potential depending on the team. And because she's an Avenger, Avengers teams could use an extra person to carry because they get pretty big in this format. So there's 3 possible Retaliators. TMNT didn't bring us anything in the world of Colossal Retaliators. Batman didn't really do anything either. Secret Wars Battle World, another one. Not really much to say about Colossal Retaliation, especially in the format. The Fast Force, we'll talk about that stuff as a part of another thing. Earth X, same sort of issue. Captain Marvel movie, nothing. Rebirth, nothing. Black Panther, nothing. All right, I'm gonna bury the lead here. Next set that has anything is X-Men: Days of Future Past. Now, strictly in the Retaliation slot, I realize now that this isn't fully up to date on the Colossal section. So we have to do this trick and then this trick. Sometimes I'm really glad this thread exists, to be brutally honest. It's super useful when, it's filled out in full and with minimal mistakes. They're usually pretty good at this, but there have been times. So, as you can see, we're skipping through a lot of things. So the first one, of course, we have the Proteus, the Kevin McTaggart orange Proteus. Warping Reality, Barrier, Shape Change, Smoke Cloud once per turn. Proteus can use Barrier as free or Smoke Cloud for free, but only to generate 2 markers. Also, he ignores blocking terrain for movement, but doesn't break through it. This is a weird one on movement that you don't usually see. Going straight to the Colossal Retaliation, he is Colossal Indifferent on his defense, which is also a stop. And also doesn't come with like toughness or anything, so be aware of that. He's kind of squishy. And his Colossal Retaliation, free if no friendly character has been placed this turn. See, that's that important wording, because don't TK before Colossal Retaliating with Proteus. Kind of where I'm getting at. Place Proteus such that he can make a close attack targeting a chosen character, then do so. A hit character gets 2 fear tokens, even if this power is lost. Characters with fear tokens must roll a d6 when making an attack and negatively modify their attack value by half the result, then remove 1 fear token. So what'll happen is they'll make an attack roll and then you roll another die, or they'll roll another die, and then take half of that die and that gets subtracted to their attack roll. So between -1 and 3, 2 times when making an attack with the character. And of course, whenever they attack with that character, they remove 1 fear token. Now, of course, there's a number of problems that come with this. If they have shape change, they're not shape changing out of Proteus. I'm sorry. Just deal with that. But you also, -1 attack is enough of a nightmare. -2 is enough of a nightmare. And then when you start attacking with this, you run the risk of letting Proteus Colossal Retaliate again if you haven't killed him. And trust me, when pauper attack values, 18 defense is ridiculous when you are -1 or 2 or 3 to your attack, depending on how things go in that manner. What's more is where things can get really wacky is if you, as a player, increase the attack of the character you're about to attack with, but then your opponent has somehow subtracted the values until they get to that full-blown -3, Proteus will start to kind of mount up to like crazy numbers. It's complicated. I'm just over-explaining something. But anyway, so I think Proteus is a really good thing and really awesome for those monster theme teams. I also don't want to discount the fact that Brute has a keyword theme somewhere in commons and uncommons, and there's a lot of really neat toolbox characters that actually have the brute keyword and do really weird, useful things, such as the underworld keyworded Friends of Humanity, who can carry brutes all of a sudden, right? I think that's pretty bonkers. Anyway, moving on. I think we have one more, and that is Phoenix. This is the Rachel Summers Big Blue Bird Phoenix. She's a cosmic entity, so she can't be part of like a multi-target situation. So be aware of that. She's also traded with Energy Shield and Poison. When Phoenix uses Poison, an opposing character took damage from it after resolutions. Choose one. Heal one click for each opposing character damaged this way, or heal each adjacent friendly character one click. Phoenix uses Poison, and an opposing character took damage from it. So yeah, she could be a really big heal bomb if you start poisoning somehow. She is colossal and different, and that's part of her defense. So good thing she's traded Energy Shield. Don't let her get in close, guys. She's got a 10 range with 3 targets, which is so long. And her Colossal Retaliation, if no friendly character has been placed, place her within 3 squares of the chosen character, then make a range attack. So it is a hard within 3. And make a range attack targeting that character and all other opposing characters within 3 squares, again, of her, regardless of line of fire. Instead of normal damage, deal each hit character 1 penetrating damage for each token they have. Hit targets that can use Incapacitate, Mind Control, Outwit, or Penetrating Psychic Blast modifier combos by all use -1 to your next turn. So it's kind of got some built-in anti-onslaught tech to a certain degree, assuming Onslaught has made an attack on the previous turn. Another thing that makes her really great is she's also 25-point TK on a X-Men or Cosmic theme team. Don't like the Starjammers, Phoenix Force, Excalibur, lofty goals if you think that's going to happen in Pauper. I don't even think that's possible in the modern format right now. But X-Men Cosmic are possible and does work out. And Rick Yell did also point out, I forgot to mention, Proteus brings another really ruthless side to him. And that is the warping reality trait, the second part. The other parts of it. So he's got barrier, shape change, smoke cloud. He's got shape change traded. And once per turn, he can use barrier or smoke cloud as free, but only generate 2 markers. Awesome. This other part, other characters within 3 squares can't use improved abilities. So if you're not Proteus and you're within 3 squares of him, you can't use improved movement and you can't use improved targeting. Now, here's where things get super wacky. Do you have improved movement from flying? Yes, not anymore. Like, this includes these things. Phasing? Nope. Juggernaut? Nope. So, be aware of, like, how extra special Proteus turns out to be. Even, like, the great size. You know how great size ignores hindering and ignores hindering and blocking and characters for movement. You can't do that. You have to stop next to the tiniest of dudes. Any sort of improved movement isn't going to work. Now, what this doesn't do is it doesn't stop drawing line of fire to and from giants, because that is not improved targeting. That is just giants say, the great size says, hey, you can shoot me past elevated, past outdoor blocking, blah, 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 blah. So that's not an improved targeting, but improved targeting movement and the ability to shoot out of base is another thing that giants actually have but don't have next to Proteus. And here's another neat thing. If you're within 3 squares of Proteus, Giant Reach ignores hindering because they still need to draw a line of fire to the character. But if you have a stealth dude within Giant Reach of a dude who's too close to Proteus, I believe if it is the generic blanket of improved abilities, I don't have him. Hold on a second. Yeah, because it says improved abilities. So if that includes improved movement and improved targeting, it does include both. Yes, thanks, Rick. I read your thing again. Just so things to consider when using Proteus. And as like he's part of one of a few teams I am considering, to say the least. I know I definitely lean, as I mentioned in an earlier episode, I'm leaning towards the Sentinels, but I am really excited by what the Sentinels bring to the table as a team in general. And I am going to probably be riding Sentinels for a little bit, both in pauper and not pauper. Stay tuned. I'm doing some work. All right. So I believe that actually does wrap us up for Colossal Retaliators. A couple things worth noting about all of these characters I mentioned. Not all of them are restricted to just being good with their Retaliator dial. We'll go backwards from there. Now, Proteus, I'm less likely to use him at, colors, 150 points. But, the fact that he's got Pulse Wave, Mind Control is free, and when he uses it, you can choose that they can't make attacks. If you do, after resolutions, place Proteus adjacent to a hit character, and you can't be the target of range attacks until your next turn. That's gnarly. I personally wouldn't use him at 225, though if you feel you can't, if you got an idea, I'd do it, man. I'm all game for that. Rachel Summers also super, like 170. It goes 175 or 25. That's really the two options you have in the format for Pauper States. And the 175 point dial isn't a bad dial. It does start with Impervious for a click, then goes to Invincible for a click. She is Power Cosmic. She is 10 range, triple target with Psychic Blast, 4 damage with Perplex. Like, she's outranging just about everything in the format, barring certain amounts of Perplex and everything like that. And Running Shot, like, that's a 15 square range with Running Shot. 175 points, super usable, super viable. One thing I did note in my early days of the Everyman format, because the Everyman format allowed fast forces right out of the gates, I did notice a proliferation of people using the Fast Force Giant Girl on her rookie dial, the 50-point dial. And the reason they were doing that is because she's got a stop click at 50 points with 5 clicks and Close Combat Expert on that last click. And then she doesn't have the unfortunateness of Colossal Indifference. So now, granted, people were using multiples in my format, the Everyman format, but one of them still not a bad character for 50 points, if you ask me. What else is super viable? Is super usable. The Giant Girls beyond click 1, there's a sea of clicks you could get, and it's like basically a click per 10 points or 10 points per click. So like at 100 points, you get a 10 click dial, which nothing wrong with that if you ask me. And granted, that's up to you, but you can go anywhere from 10 to 100. Even if you're just filling out a couple points, why not, right? It's 10 points. What's the big deal? Or, if you pay 90 points for her, you get 9 clicks with the first click having 3 damage with Close Combat Expert with a 9 attack. That's basically an 11 attack. Let's not kid ourselves with Close Combat Expert. Or a 10-4 if you're really, if you trust your dice a lot more than I do. Also worth mentioning, and I've seen this one in action in other places, is Jakar, and that is at the rookie dial. For 75 points, you get a guy who's capable of using telekinesis at no cost, telekinesis 3 times at the cost of a power action with a 7 range, and when he uses to place an opposing character after resolution, deal that character 1 penetrating damage. Jakar cannot target the same opposing character more than once this turn. So you could TK a dude, deal him a damage, an opposing dude, TK one of your dudes, or TK an object at somebody. Like, the sky's the limit. Let's not kid ourselves. And 18 defense with 3 clicks of Invincible, the third one going to 19 defense with a last click that has 19 defense. That's pretty okay, if you ask me. So Jakar's not unusable at 75 points. You just gotta know what's up and know what you're doing with them. Yeah, so those are just focusing on the Colossal Retaliators for that part. I'm going to add in a couple other neat little tidbits that fall under this low point, big dial sort of situations. One of which is the Dune Buggy. Now, Now, I know I was talking about some vehicles in the last episode. The Dune Buggy is a vehicle that is super pilotable by like the Sabretooth or the Magneto. I'd say the Sabretooth is probably your better bet with this one. That's a unique Sabretooth. But just in general, as a charge character, very viable, but also very usable as a terrain dial, because there is a terrain dial attached to this that you can use to pop in the middle of the map and give -1 attack to anybody within, I believe it's 4 squares of it. So it's like 30 points, or for 5 points you use the special terrain. I think that's pretty okay. I don't. We don't seem to have it on there. All right, whatever. But think about that. It also gives you the ability to carry somebody with somebody who might not be able to carry. So think about that. And I just love the idea of the Dune Buggy being driven by Sabretooth and getting Battle Fury, because Dune Buggy gives 0 Fs. 12 attack blades with Battle Fury coming out of that is so scary. The Shield Flying Car, 100 points. Personally, wouldn't use it. 40 points. I don't see why not. We talked about Giant Girl. The Kree Sentry. There's a Kree team that's out there in this format that might be viable courtesy Captain Marvel, and I think he might be a part of it, to be honest. So consider that. Standard Giganto, not like the dude on with Namor, but he's a fat dial for 200 points if you want to just play a fat dial for 200 points. Honestly, I think I'm starting to ramble because I'm short for content, to be honest, because I didn't realize there were a lot less Colossal Retaliators than I thought. Next week, my goal is to cover the WWE guys and how they fit into the format, because one, I should have them by Wednesday of next week, and I'm getting them en masse. So any kind of gaps that we have from the unit from the rumor section will be filled with that. Once again, fingers crossed. Yeah, so overall, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we did on that one. And we're going to talk about... Yeah, Magneto in the shield card doesn't care about the Nimrod trait, now that I think about it. That's a good call. Because, and let's talk about that very briefly. Rick Yell, thank you very much for kind of chiming in. He's been really into these pauper or low-budget formats for a while. Not to say that like it's a bad thing. He's really kind of dialed in on these lower rarity characters. And I think that's a really good thing to be having, especially for the format. If you look at the Shield Flying Car, he's got 0 attack, 0 damage. And Nimrod cares about your printed damage. So if he's getting the damage from the Magneto, that's not printed damage from the car, because technically the car is the one attacking when you're piloting a vehicle. So, yeah. I don't care if I get Nimrodded into oblivion, I'm taking 0 damage on that. Now, granted, Nimrod is still dodging the attack, and I don't know if you've seen Nimrod's stats, but Nimrod's turning this into special terrain in 1 attack. So, I mean, yeah, he's not going to deal the damage back to the Magneto, but at 40 points, you have to invest in the 100-point one if you want to survive a single, like, shot. I mean, granted, it's okay. You're going to take... Yeah, because Nimrod will pick Psychic Blast and double tap to be safe. But, yeah, I think at 100 points, it's probably the better choice to go in that case. It's still ultimately going to work in the same manner. It's just more of an investment. But... for 150 points to deal 12 attack, 8 range, 4 damage with either Psychic Blast or Ranged Combat Expert, I'm not going to kick it out of the bed for eating crackers. Okay, next, Lex Riley wants to know about the Fast Force Turtles. And if I'm remembering correctly, you're talking about the ones I tried to bring to a competitive tournament once. The Unplugged Ninja Turtles. I like them, but I don't like all of them, if that makes sense. Allow me to explain. I think Leonardo and Raphael are the peak awesome of this. Raphael coming with running shot with a range of 4, sidestep. but he can only use running shot when he has no action tokens. Actually, I think it was Michelangelo and Leonardo. Really thinking about it. Yeah, okay. It was Michelangelo and Leonardo. Those are the two that I was really... I ended up actually, with my team, going with 2 Leonardos and 2 Michelangelos. But in this format, you're going to want to use all 4, and you're going to want to try to stick to some form of theme team, if you ask me, because you're going to need the theme props. But this is your Don't Die tech, and I think it is absolutely viable. Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello. Shredder is not out of the running either. But Leonardo has got blades, and he's got leadership. This team's going to need leadership because you got a lot of low point dudes. Michelangelo has flurry sidestep. He's only got flurry when you have no action tokens, but well, sure. Leo's only got exploit weakness when he has no action tokens. Don't worry about these so much. You're going to get a lot of situations where you're just going to be able to use them. Raphael, precision strike is just a good power to go with sidestep. And he's got evasion. And then Donatello is your taxi. Why do you hate Donatello, WizKids? So he also comes with that wit. And like I said, the passenger 3 to carry Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael. I love these guys a lot. Outwit's a good power to have. All of them, and they all share this continue thing because they're based on the arcade game one. Donatello starts the game with a quarter token, along with Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael. They all start with this quarter token. Now, when one of the characters would be KO'd, you can actually instead remove a token from any of the 4 Ninja Turtles with this trait that do have a token. And then instead of KOing them, you move to click 2 and your opponent scores 25 points. So overall, see where we're going? Awesome. Now, the hard part with these guys, if you ask me, is filling out that last 100 points. Because this is 200 points of a team. So, and I feel like TMNT or TMNT Ally is the direction you need to go. Because you need the name theme team to get the probs, unless you have a martial artist with probability control that you're really thinking about using. Actually, before I put my foot in my mouth, modern martial artists, because I'm about to eat foot if I don't properly correct myself on this one. Martial artist, and damage power is probability control. All right. So, in that slot, we have Karnak, who doesn't start with it. And I also didn't filter for, obviously, the guys that are going to be legal in format. Superman doesn't really start with it either. And Batman, I mean, you can play him at 100 points. Duke Thomas from Rebirth is cool, but I feel like I don't think he doesn't have the theme. Like, what you end up getting is a lot of extra attack, but you can still miss. And I have done that missing. But to go with Duke Thomas, for those of you unfamiliar with Duke Thomas, boom. Gotham City. He is martial artist. Why did he not show up in my martial art? Oh, he didn't have prop. Never mind. Ignore me. So yeah, okay. Duke Thomas gives friendly characters making close attacks +1 attack for each other friendly character adjacent to their target. And of course, the turtles are going to all 4 of them try to be adjacent to the targets. If you don't do it on the move with Leonardo, you're going to do it on a sidestep after the fact. You're going to get the attacks. The trick from there is just don't base people with quick. Seems like the best plan, reasonable plan. I'm not being unreasonable when I say these things. And then, yeah, you're going to have an average of like 13 attack on your dudes, 12, so on. So I just, being who I am, I say if you're going to do this, you have to go all sorts of contingency, as it were. I'm not going to disagree. I think Duke Thomas is something I've been considering for this a lot. Is Duke Thomas a unique modifier? He is not, which is important because you play two Duke Thomases, and then all of a sudden you really start to get crazy. I think actually, and of course, if Duke is part of the attack as well, he's adding in power. So this is a blow you up with a big attack. One of the big problems you're going to run into, like we've already discussed, Nimrod. Nimrod is something you're just going to have to accept exists in the format. There's no way around Nimrod existing. So you got to find your ways on how you're going to manage the Nimrod problem. In fact, I think Duke Thomas actually becomes a liability if you're attacking Nimrods, if you're asking me, because I have in recent games thrown about 13 attacks at a Nimrod, all of them requiring 8. More than 13 attacks, but 8 of them hit out of, like, we'll say 30, 40 attacks. And this is literal numbers. Like, I got a couple turns of this nonsense. I did get pulse wave for my efforts, but like I didn't die from it because of what I was doing with it, and I had lots of targets in there. But every time I was hitting with an 8, requiring an 8 or higher, he was having a harder time rolling off. I think he rolled off 2 of them that hit on exactly 8 because he did either match or go higher. So when you are attacking a Nimrod with a 13 attack and you only need a 5 or 6 and you hit with that 5 or 6, Nimrod's going to go, okay, I don't need much to get out of this. And then you're kind of hitting yourself. That said, do not panic. You've got Outwit from Donatello. Maybe if you can get some there's lots of martial artists that have poison. Perhaps consider that direction. Because Nimrod's is triggered on attack. You can't evade poison. So if you have ways of artificially digging him down, giving him action tokens at like very minimal effort, I think that is another way to go. I'm not going to say don't do this because I actually kind of really like this, to be 100% honest with you. Like I 100% agree that a Duke Thomas Ninja Turtles, it was an idea I definitely kind of flirted with. My fear, of course, is even with a 13 attack, I'm going to miss attacks. And my opponents are going to look at me like, what are you doing? And I'm just going to be shrugging. I'm just trying to find that good old martial artist keyword. There it is. So what do we have in our gate, as it were? We got Leo, we got Raph, and another. We have other versions of these dudes, of course. Splinter, Karai aren't going to be format legal. I actually shouldn't have even looked at that Shredder, to be 100% honest. You know what? The Fast Force Shredder, I don't see why not. Opposing characters can't target Shredder with attacks unless they're adjacent or your force only has a character named Shredder. I mean, Fast Force Shredder has got some dial. Not unlikely. Consider it, maybe. But I'm just trying to. I'm doing a quick scan to see if anything kind of catches my eye that will have poison. Our assassin's guilds are really good. Callisto, I wish you had poison. You're just really good too. For only 45 points, she's pretty awesome. I'm going all out here. Elektra, nothing. Black Widow. Oh, okay, yeah, A and B. I mean, Black Widow adds that. Karnak. Karnak's got Precision Strike. Fancy Dan won't work in the situation I want him to because we don't have anybody with the Enforcer's keyword. I'm just trying to see if I can't find some poison or free sources of pushing or action tokens or something. Of course, DC's got all the. Of course, DC has all the dudes with martial artist keyword, right? Why am I shocked by this? Man, Smoke Cloud is free. Robin, Paul Kirk, Catmandu, and Batman. All right, I tried. So you're just gonna have to throw attacks and hope. Honestly, I wouldn't. If you're considering this, let's go for broke and just throw a Duke Thomas on there, and maybe add some perplex. Bat. Man, why didn't the common Batman have the martial artist keyword? That perplex would go a long way. But yeah, you know what? If ignore my little problems here. Oh, here it is. Kyoto Ken. 50 points. Once per game, free action. Give somebody an action token. Here's where this is key. If they get their Nimrod moved, you get your Kyoto Ken next to them. And then free action, give them an action token after using Donatello to carry one of your Ninja Turtles. Outwit his willpower, do that 1 damage. Now you're past that first obnoxious click of both, his trait and shape change. So once you pass the shape change, then you can start really trying to go to town on that. So consider Kyodai Ken, see how he works for you, because now we've created a situation where at least 3 characters are adjacent. And then the next turn, granted, you're going to have to be very careful, play out the roles, look at where characters are located, maybe add some perplex if you can find it, because you'll need some extra, oddly enough, right out of the gates movement to make this trick work. And just play around the Nimrod, because the Nimrod doesn't have move and attack. That is a bonus. But at the same time, beware of Nimrods who are smart and choose poison, because that will be a situation you're just going to watch your dial slowly tick, and then at best you're going to be able to slowly tick his dial down. I think that's the only team that you should be afraid of, because what will happen is the Medusa Avenger Bomb is going to hit you a bunch. You're going to survive, and when you hit them back, they are not going to survive, and that's a big difference between your team and their team. So they can score like 100 points if they manage to somehow score 4 KOs, which they're not going to do. And then you can just turn around and return the favor by blasting figures away on their team with ridiculously high attacks. Like, both of your teams will go, and yours should remain standing over the Avenger Bomb if the world is correct in the way that the numbers are supposed to go for that. I really got into somebody else's team over the original topic, but thank you, Lex, for kind of presenting that idea and giving us a chance to actually talk about a further full-blown archetype, because I don't think I haven't covered that one per se, and I believe I briefly at best mentioned it in Don't Die Tech. It's a tough team. It's really hard to take down. And I did not at any single point get completely wiped when I did run it as a team in a competitive, not pauper format. So don't be afraid. Give it a try. Tweak. You got your base 200. Tweak around this. And see what you can come up with. And that's the best I can add to that. So good luck, Lex. And feel free to comment or message the Facebook, facebook.com/Heroclix, if you have any updates or anything like that. And I'll do my best to try to kind of keep you informed and give you advice or give you extras. If it was me, I would save 5 points of your team and maybe go for the Tony Stark map just to get some extra rerolls, or the Earth X Wakanda, whatever works better for you, because I believe Leo has blades, and that goes a distance as well. I'll reroll on blades. All right, I'm done. It's been a wonderful day. I want to thank everybody for watching. I've taken the hood off. I'm no longer anarchy. I'm out of the madness, and want you guys to think about your pauper teams, and in the comments, share archetypes you think we need to discuss. Next week, we're going to spend a little bit of time on keynote support characters, characters you should be considering for support. And when I say support, I mean they could be perplexing, they could be outwitting, they could be healing, they could be doing any of the they could be just a source of probability control. These will be characters to consider in this role, and we'll talk about that next week. But if you have an archetype and whatnot that you want to discuss, I am going to be all ears tomorrow, or next week rather, and we'll bring it up, and I'll talk about things you could do to make that kind of team or that kind of team possibly better. Don't necessarily have to give me your team, just an archetype and a quick description. So throw that in the comments. Message us on Facebook at facebook.com/marriedwithclicks again. Or even email marriedwithclicks@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to kind of approach it in the next episode of Into the Mind of Madness. We've gone crazy. It was a good old time, and just remember, to get a little good, you got to be a little crazy. Have a good night, everybody.